Brothers and sisters, I'm trying to put together a proposal for what CFA is proposing to the annual conference. And I wanted to be sure you had a chance to see by PowerPoint what I'm doing. I have put this PowerPoint on our district website, roanokeumc.org, so you can get the PowerPoint there, and I'm going to make some comments about it. Hopefully this video will be fairly short, and it'll teach you what you need to know. The Conference Council on Finance Administration has a responsibility to do the financial work for the annual conference and prepare the best kinds of proposals based on what the annual conference desires every year. We've put together several things, and there are several changes that are proposed for the coming year. One of the things we're proposing is that there are no more averages for our apportionments, and I'm going to talk about that more in just a moment. We're going to split the funds. In other words, the look of your conference payment page will look different. The numbers will change. In other words, where you had 400 or 401, 402, those will change. And the clergy health, the active clergy health will change. The pension liability also is something we've talked about for years, and we're working on the pension liability, so that will change as well. And world service will change in the way we apportion it. I just wanted to be sure I gave you those highlights, and now I'm going to talk about no more averages. In the past, we've used a 3-year average for our apportioning. So it's the last reported year, so the apportionments for 2012 would have been based in the old formula on the expenses for the last 3 years, for 2008, 9, and 10. Instead, we're going to change and ask that the annual conference give us permission to apportion based on just 1 year, the last reported year, which would be 2010. We believe this will make us more nimble. It'll be much clearer for us, and this just means now that it would be 2010 statistics that would be used for the 2012 apportionments. This will make it so much easier for the conference treasurer and so much easier for us, and makes us more nimble. We feel like then we can respond in apportionment payments much more quickly. The next thing is split funds. Because of the way we wanted the budget to look, we wanted it to show the different kinds of groups that are responsible for the different portions of the budget. The first section is Virginia's budget, and you'll see this in your book of reports. It's in there from the conference budget. There was a mistake in it that was not CFA's doing. You will receive or have received the corrected page. And what you'll notice on that page is the top section is Virginia's. That's what we have control over. We don't have control over much of the rest. But we do have direct control over the first section of the budget. And Fund 401 is the Virginia Conference expenses for programming and for the common table. The next is that in the past, world service was connected to it. So we collected one apportionment for world service and for the conference funds for programming. We have split those out, and you can see schedules A, B, and C in your book of reports for an itemized functioning of those split funds. Next, the numbers will change. I said something about that. For you treasurers out there, that means you're going to have to pay particular attention to what number 407 is and what number 409 is and 411. World service, I believe, in the new functioning will be very high in the numbers, because remember, we put all the Virginia things in the lowest numbers, all of the pension health benefits are in the middle numbers, and the high numbers are the general church apportioned funds. So the three sections of that budget are represented. The Virginia Conference is what we have control over. The clergy benefit apportionments for health and pension are the second section. We have very limited ability to change any of those, and the general church apportionments are last. Then the increase and decrease, you can see this also in the book of reports from the last year, or certainly we can tell you, the Virginia Conference, we are reducing the conference apportionments by 7.2%, and the general and jurisdictional apportionments went down 1.59%. But this thing of clergy benefit apportionments, past pension liability, health care apportionment, is the increasing amount. We've been saying this for years, and this is the reality. This is what we're going to face. Now, for clergy health, we're changing the way the clergy health is apportioned. In the past, the clergy health was apportioned in the last several years based on the decimal, which was that 3-year decimal. Based on some recommendations from last year's conference, we were asked if we could change that because some churches, particularly larger churches, felt that there would be a better way of doing that. So we set up a two-tier sort of hybrid system. First tier is that every church that has a full-time pastor would pay $5,000 in a flat rate toward the fund. Now this means a charge. The charge would pay $5,000. It can be divided among the churches on the charge any way that the charge desires. But every full-time pastor in a charge or church, there would be a $5,000 amount. Tier 2, the rest of the money would be collected based on clergy compensation. So a decimal will really be formed of your clergy compensation in your church as a percentage of all of the total clergy compensation for all the clergy in the annual conference. That would give you a decimal, and we would apportion the rest of the money based on a salary decimal, and that's the second tier. This, of course, would be based on last year's salary, year 2010 for 2012. This means that when the Board of Pensions and Health Benefits gives us, which they did, a request for $8,713,713 for that apportionment, we have to find that amount of money. We have come up with this method as opposed to the apportion on the decimal, which we've been doing for several years. Two tiers, $5,000 for each full-time appointed pastor, and the rest of the money of the $8,713,713 that's needed will be done based on a decimal of the salaries. So I want to be sure that you're aware of that, and that is the biggest thing we want you to be sure you understand. The pension liability is a past pension liability that has always been on us. It'll be Fund 409. This we have no control over. The General Board of Pensions tells us what that liability is. Thank goodness it's moved. It is less than we expected in some ways, but it will be a floating figure. But remember, we don't have any control over it, and it's based on what the General Board of Pensions and Health Benefits gives us as the amount. It is a bit less than we expected. World Service, it's separated from the previous year. As I told you, the usual apportionment as figures are received from the statistical tables from the last reported year. Note that the general jurisdictional accounts went down. Remember, I told you the percentage went down, and I'm asking the question why. A part of that is because our portion of the denominational obligation is reducing because we are spending less in Virginia than we used to as compared to the rest of the denomination. So there's no trick. Now, I know you won't be able to read this, but this has been given to your superintendents, and now certainly you can get it from the PowerPoint. This explains the health care apportionment. This talks about how each full-time appointed pastor of the church would pay $5,000, then all the churches would be apportioned a decimal of the total of all appointed clergy salaries in the conference as of the last year reported. That means the smallest churches where there's no full-time pastor will not pay the $5,000 at all, but all churches would participate in the decimal of all appointed salaries. So there'll be two ways that it will be done, but it'll be one apportioned fund that you'll get. Now please, I want you to understand that in the annual conference, as a delegate, if you're coming as a delegate, you're supposed to think about the whole, not just about you, but about the whole. And that's a very difficult thing to do. So I want to warn you about that. And remember, these are estimates. I have some examples from some churches that are on the Roanoke District, and I wanted to be sure that you know that these are just estimates. These can shift a little bit because all the statistics were not finalized, but we had a chance to correct statistical tables at the end of May, and all of that was not done prior to my doing this presentation. So these are estimates, but I'll give you an example. The estimated for 407A is Blacksburg Church on my district. There are 3 clergy there, a pastor, associate pastor, and deacon. That church would pay $15,000 of the flat rate part, Tier 1. Tier 2, based on the salaries compared to all salaries in the conference, they would pay $20,598. This would be a decrease for them from the previous year of $7,448. Larger churches would probably benefit from this structure. Goodwin Memorial on the Roanoke District is a part-time appointment served by a retired clergy person. They would not have to pay the $5,000. Based on the salary percentage, they would pay $1,048. and this is a $249 decrease for a good one. Next is Pembroke. I wanted to give you a charge. This is a full-time charge. I don't think they will really split theirs this way because the churches are different sizes, but we didn't know how to do that one. But Pembroke would pay $2,500, half of the $5,000, and Mount Lebanon would pay half. Now that's not exactly accurate, but they would probably shift it differently. For First Church Pembroke, based on salary, they'd pay $2,583. Their change would be $999. Mount Lebanon would pay the $2,500. Based on salary, would pay $948, and the change would be $2,547. So the charge, in a way, here would probably work out the difference of this $3,546 that would be new money that needed to come in. Next is Rockingham Court, station appointment. Full-time clergy person would have to now pay the $5,000. Based on salary percentage, would need to also pay $3,859, and then the change would be $4,730 from the previous year. Just want to be sure you take a look at this and you understand that there are examples. Your superintendent has some examples from your own district. He or she may have shared that with you. We have that information. These are some examples. Now, the other notes, we have had a CPP holiday this year. That's a comprehensive protection plan from the General Board of Pensions, which has helped us in paying our former pension liability. And I want to make note of that because that certainly has helped us. And also our Conference Board of Pensions has helped with that. The clergy health benefit didn't have to go up significantly in the total asking for this year. How we get the money is, of course, what we're talking about changing, because the clergy claims were not significantly different from the previous year. But there is a proposal in the pension proposals to change the disability percentage, income replacement. Right now it's been 70% of income replacement, 70% of your salary if you become disabled. They are recommending that we change this to 60%. There's some caveats to that, some different numbers, but I want to be sure that I get you to call attention to that for our annual conference. The purpose of this presentation is to get you to understand that all of this will change, but it's not a bad change. All of this is just a proposal that CFA felt obligated to bring to the annual conference. It is entirely up to the annual conference to make its own decision about whether this process works, whether it does not. But we want to be sure we give you the information in the best way that we can. This information, again, I'll have the video, but also I'll have the PowerPoint available on the district website, roanokeumc.org. Go to the Resources tab, go to the very bottom, and you'll find the PowerPoint, and hopefully, if I can get it uploaded, you'll find this video. Thank you. God bless. This is Steve Huntley from the Roanoke District.